Cool. Well, thank you so much. My name is Jason Kuhn. I am the Director of Safety Operations for Xbox. My team is responsible for keeping people safe when they play games online. And it is definitely an honor and a privilege for me to be moderating this panel. As a 12-year Army veteran, the USO certainly played a big role in making my quality of life better for my wife and I, particularly the 5 years I spent overseas. And so I am very happy to be here, excited for you guys because there's so much opportunity out there. And I want to go ahead and take the time to introduce our panelists, or have our panelists introduce themselves to you. We actually do have representation here from Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps, as well as someone who is civilian but has quite a bit of experience interviewing and hiring veterans. So let's start with Eric. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Eric Richardson. I was in the Marine Corps. Through MSSA, I work at Xbox Game Studios as a program manager. I'm excited to look forward to taking folks' questions today, and thank you for your time. Thank you. Thanks, Jason.
All right. Angel, how about you?
Hi, my name's Angel Asman. I work on Halo Infinite as a quality engineer. I was in the Navy for about 6 years as an aviation warfare systems operator, and I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. Gavin, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Gavin Freiberg. I'm your civilian rep on the panel today. I've worked in the games industry for about 20 years, 2 years at Microsoft. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Justin.
Hi, my name's Justin Cagle. I spent 11 years active duty in the Air Force. After I left the Air Force, I spent about a year and a half working for SpaceX in LA, teaching people how to wire up rockets. After that, I went back to school for a little bit, and now I am working for Microsoft as a quality analyst, embedded with the 343 Industries team on Halo Infinite, and glad to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. And I forgot to give a little bit more detail about my background. I was actually enlisted for 3 years and then finished out my career as a Signal Corps officer. And I've been at Microsoft for 22 years, and 19 of those have been with the Xbox team. So with that, let's get into some questions for the panelists. I think probably something that is on the minds of a lot of folks who are watching this is wanting to know, what do you wish you would have known at the time that you were looking to get into the tech field and specifically into gaming? What sort of advice or knowledge do you wish you would have had that would have made the transition easier for you? And I think let's start with Eric.
So, wow, thanks, Jason. What do I wish I would have known? Oh, wow. Yeah, just I think one of the things that I wish I had known is kind of there's a lot of support like this call today, for instance. Like there's a lot of people who want to help you be successful. Like I didn't know that. When I first got there, I was just kind of just chopping away. But there's a lot of people that want to see you be successful. And just know that you can accomplish anything as long as you kind of work hard towards it. So just, and we'll talk about it, I guess, later on through it, but just imposter syndrome, but just we're glad that you're here and that you're not the only person that, has a unique background and you can be successful here at Xbox or whatever you choose to do. Yeah. Thanks, Jason.
Awesome. Angel, any thoughts?
Yeah, like this event, for example, is something that I wish I knew about more, and I wish I knew about all the other support that was out there. When I got out of the Navy, I went to college for web design and then for computer science. And they didn't really teach you, they taught you the academic level and the computer level of stuff, but they didn't really teach you like things like agile or scrum processes and continuous integration and that stuff, that how you would work with that software in a very large team in a very complex environment like a game. And I kind of wish I studied that more.
Cool. Thank you. Justin.
I think, as mentioned before, imposter syndrome is a big one. I think one of the biggest things is just knowing that most of the people around you are feeling just like you are about how you feel, and how inadequate you might feel about your knowledge level, and that it's okay to not know everything, and it's okay to continue trying to learn and grow and develop your own experiences, and grow your skill sets. I think that would probably be the thing that I wish I had known from the beginning, and to not need to know everything from the get-go.
Okay. Gavin?
Yeah, sorry, such good answers already. I think for me personally, the value of your own passion and keeping that passion alive is hard to underestimate, and also the value of your own self-learning and the value of finding mentor on the opposite side of the spectrum. So I think they're just great opportunities for anyone to get involved. And as has been said by a lot of people, don't let yourself feel that you can't do it for any reason. Like, get some passion. There are people that want to help, and that there are people that'll help guide you.
Awesome. And I'll add my own answer to this. I think don't underestimate the value of your skill, experience, and training that you've received in the military. It really is world-class. One of the things that I think that that people separating from the military, coming into corporate world, generally lack an understanding of is their own market value, and where they fit in terms of level wise or skill wise in the corporate world. So spending some time looking at publicly available information around salary ranges, looking at job descriptions to get a better sense of, should I be shooting for that entry role, that mid-tier role, maybe a senior role. You might be surprised at how valuable your skill level is, and you don't always have to take the entry-level position when you're coming out of the military and going into the corporate world. So from that, so one of the things that you heard our panelists talk about, because we did have a session where we got together and talked a little bit before coming online. The thing that came up quite a bit was this sense of imposter syndrome. And I want to say that it was Gavin, when we were talking about this, put the notion of imposter syndrome into a positive light that I'd never actually heard before. And he talked about how it's super common for people who are committed to doing a good job to suffer from imposter syndrome. So I'm wondering, Gavin, if you can expand on that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think imposter syndrome is something that we sort of talk about a little, but don't talk about a lot. And in my experience, the vast majority of people suffer from imposter syndrome, at least in the games industry that I've met. There are very few people that don't. And almost the more caring and more empathetic and more dedicated to their role they are, the more likely it is that you scratch a little bit at the surface and they say, yeah, I feel imposter syndrome every single day. The trick is not to let it get in your way, right? You've got to take a step back and say, yeah, I do bring value to the table. And I think especially with military careers, there are huge, huge bonuses and pluses that you guys bring to the table through your experience. So don't let anyone take that away from you. And more importantly, don't let yourself take that away from you, because I find that that's actually the real hurdle.
Awesome. Thank you. Eric or Justin, I know you both talked about it as well. Did you want to add anything?
imposter syndrome right now. I mean, and
Eric?
Gavin said it beautifully. I mean, I think just a constant reminder is something that everybody's just going to have to evaluate on their own. Is that, hey, you know, I'm valuable. I have a lot to bring to the table, and that your unique skill set with the things that you've learned in your time in the military. Please don't forget that, you know, and bring that forward, like you mentioned earlier, Jason. So just kind of remember the things that you've been good at. People talk to you about, and bring those skill sets to Microsoft or wherever you choose to go. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll say that, you know, even after 22 years at Microsoft, it still impacts me as well. In fact, when I was even first asked to moderate this panel, I wondered whether or not I could do it. It was like, are you sure you want me? But you know, here we are, right? So don't let those things hold you back, and know that if you're feeling that way, chances are the people to the left and right of you are also feeling the same way. You know, that there's that old saying about courage doesn't mean that you're not afraid. It means that you move forward when you're afraid anyway, right? And so that's how you overcome. So another question for the panel at large here, wanting to understand how a service member's MOS can be transferable into career pathways. For those of you, you know, how did you transfer your military skills, or did it transfer? Did it help you when you came into the tech world? So I'll start with Angel.
Oh yeah. I also definitely had imposter syndrome too, by the way. Definitely had it go in the military and coming out. But for MOS skills, I found, you know, when I first got out, I was like, oh, these skills they're not gonna help me. You know, that's how I felt when I first got out. Like they're not transferable at all. And then I started to see that that wasn't true at all. And I needed to, you know, reflect back, and I saw skills like I had strong leadership skills when I would do class projects, and I would be the one that would take point on that, or I would be able to react quickly in high stress environments, or I used to build a flight schedule, and moving those different parts around, I was able to transfer that into a soft skill where I could make sense out of real complex things and kind of, you know, get a project together.
Okay, thank you. Justin, any thoughts on how your MOS was transferable?
Sure. So I don't look like an actual imposter for my Air Force folks. My AFSC was aircraft maintenance, and one of the biggest things that we had to have was attention to detail, and being in quality that transfers really well. So one of the things that I kind of spun that toward for looking at this job was, you know, I need to take a look at all the different pathways in testing the game to see how our players can break it. And it's the same way when you're troubleshooting an aircraft. You know, what are all the different pathways that this system can be broken? And it transfers really well. I mean, that line of thought can help you a lot in the quality field. So.
Eric, any thoughts?
Yes, I sort of want to bring up the Microsoft Software and Systems Academy program for me,
yeah,
because one of the things that group really helped with was me transitioning from being a DAS Marine, or Direct Air Support Center is what that kind of stands for, was able to help me understand, like, you know, going from leading Marines and then learning how that skill kind of translates into being able to do my job effectively here as a PM, which is a program manager, where you're able to, like, oh, okay, and how do I influence without actual power? You know, when you're a Lance Corporal and you got to get people to do a working party or something, you need to be able to speak to people in a certain way. So those skills were transferable in a way. So I want to take the opportunity to say, you know, thank that group for helping me to develop some of those skill sets. But also, I think just for folks on the call to reflect on, like, you actually have a lot of things that may not appear technical or non-technical. There's a lot of the non-technical skills, the soft skills, how you speak, being confident in yourself that you can develop throughout the military. So I think folks have a ton of those. So don't kind of forget about those soft skills. And I see somebody from I'm gonna say the taco, down there. But yeah, so that's cool. Yeah, if you have other questions about it, just feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. But like you said, Jason, I think it's just there's a ton of skills that are offered. Just don't forget about them. Yeah, that's all I got.
So I would just take a moment and check in. So I'm not actively monitoring chat, but I can see there's a lot of chat going on. So just curious if there are any questions that have bubbled up into chat that we can address.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Well, first of all, everyone is using this as a great opportunity to network. So we love it. Connect with each other. And thank you guys. We have a great audience who is definitely upvoting each other's questions. And we've got some coming into the Q&A box there, Jason. So you can grab any of those or we could throw one at you. But this is a good opportunity to remind everyone to take a look at what's in there, upvote anything that's on your mind as well. And we'll have our amazing speakers start tackling those.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Now I've found the QA box. There's some good stuff in there. Although I do have I've got a couple of specific questions. So Eric, I was going to ask you about the Software Systems Academy, but I think you did a good job on that already. Gavin, question for you, because I know as a hiring manager, you have looked at a lot of resumes from folks with military backgrounds, and you've hired some folks there. Anything you can offer for folks in how to best take that military experience that they have and translating it into something that a civilian hiring manager can understand, or any other advice for folks who are preparing a resume that is largely filled with military experience?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think the key thing to remember about military experiences is people, the vast majority of hiring managers are looking for people who know how to collaborate and that know how to question themselves and know how to work in a team. So the lens that I've found that works really well is essentially to translate your experience, and sorry, I did a bad job for preparing for this question, is to translate your experience into the projects and how you contributed to them and how you collaborated with the people that you were working with, right? Because that's a large part of our job, is just collaborating with our other team members.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. And one of the so I actually just looked at a resume from a military member just the other day, and one of the things that really stood out to me is that rather than listing roles like platoon sergeant or section chief or whatnot, the person did a really good job of translating the roles into civilian equivalent titles, like director of systems administration, and just basically did a really good job of translating it in out of military speak and into things that the corporate world can better understand. Before I get to, so I see there's a bunch of questions here, and I see that there's some that are being upvoted here. Before I do that, I also had a specific question for Angel, something that we had talked about prior, that the military is still largely a male-dominated field. Tech can also be a very much a male-dominated field. So what sort of challenges did you face, or what strategies did you employ as you made that transition from one male-dominated field into another?
I think it helped me build some skills on recognizing maybe some toxic environments at first, and recognizing more unconscious bias, because when you're in the Microsoft or any kind of tech world, it's a little more, it can be more subtle. and it can be hard to recognize if there is any issues like that going on. So I found that just communicating more and just identifying misconceptions and any kind of unconscious bias and just talking about it really helped me kind of pave my way and kind of strengthen my voice a little bit more.
And I know we also have so at Microsoft we have a lot of different employee resource groups, and I know there's a women in gaming group. In fact, even in my smaller department that I'm part of, the Xbox Player Services, we have women in XPS as well. So there is a lot of support that's built in as well. So thank you. So for the taking a look at the most upvoted question here, what military specialties are historically most successful as gaming engineers? I don't know. Does anyone on the panel want to take a shot at this one?
Jason, I'd like to say something. I think the question, I'd probably frame it a little different. Like, I think whatever skill set, I mean, I've seen people, I thought when I was in the program that had more like the IT or background, I was like, oh, they're going to be really successful. But you got to remember, people here went to Harvard, MIT, that thing. And so you don't want to get stuck in that battle of like, oh, I need these skill sets, hard work, determination, believing in what you got and studying. Like, you just need to get here and work. New tech's going to come out. Nobody has an AI, maybe they do got an AI degree, but you know what I mean? None of the stuff that's emerging is, you need to get there and get on the ground and learn what it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally does. In fact, it even tracks with my own experience. So I finished out my military career as a Signal Corps officer. I have a degree in computer science. I've been at Microsoft for 22 years, and I've never actually had a job that involved coding. Right. So I've got the degree, but I've never actually used it here. And at the same time, I've also got an employee who is an amazing data scientist. That's actually his role as a data scientist. And his degree is in Russian literature. So it doesn't always map, right? And so I think the big meta takeaway is don't get too hung up on that, and don't discount your ability to do the job just based on the certification or the MOS that you had, right? Your experience accounts for a lot. Your tenacity to problem solve as well as work with others also counts for a lot too. Yes, Gavin.
Yeah, just to add to that, and this is something from my own personal history. When I got out of university, I went over to the UK. It was about Y2K, year 2000, and there was actually an industry downturn at that stage. So I couldn't find a job. It took me about a year to find a job over there, and one of the biggest reasons I'm in the games industry is I sort of felt, well, if I can't find a job in computer science, I might as well go charging after something I actually really care about, which was video games. And so I wrote a whole bunch of demos, did a whole bunch of self-learning, and the games industry is absolutely wonderful in a whole heap of respects. And one of the key ones is, if you are prepared to demonstrate commitment and passion to the games industry, people are really prepared to sit up and pay attention of that. Like, it's valued in this industry in ways that it isn't in a lot of industries. So, if you have a passion to work in the games industry, get out there, do some learning, put your name forward. People will see your passion, and that's your door in.
100%. Yes, Justin.
Don't tell anybody, but I'm still working on my computer science degree. I'm not done yet.
Yeah, and Angel.
Sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, sorry, I totally dropped out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No
What was
worries.
the question?
So it had to do with your what military specialty would be best for starting as an engineer in gaming.
Oh, right. It would have to be something where, like, because when I flew in airplanes and I tracked submarines, and I never thought that that would translate over at all. But when I flew with this crew, I built all these skills of working with a team. So I feel like anything where you're working with your team or your group and you're striving for a goal is so critical to have.
Yep. And I'll riff a little bit on what Gavin said as well around passion. Is that I considered myself a hardcore gamer before coming to Xbox. I was this back in the 90s and early 2000s. I was doing LAN parties. I was constantly rebuilding PCs to get the most performance out of them. And when I came to Xbox, much like everyone watching this live stream right now, I had zero experience in the games industry, but I had a tremendous amount of passion for it, and it came through. And obviously, I had to have technical skills as well, but I think the passion really accounted for a lot. So let's see the LAN parties. Yes, I had an entire crate to pack up my PC and I would actually travel with it. Yeah, good times. So let's see. So Daniel has the next most upvoted question here. Is there a place for me if I have loved gaming, but my military career has not been in IT or tech? Is there management roles or program lead roles that we can get into if we have no previous industry experience? I see a lot of head nodding, so whoever wants to jump in and take this one, go for it.
I was an aircraft mechanic. I didn't do anything computer. I mean, I worked on avionics equipment. That was the most computer related thing that I did in my military career.
So in other words, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to, I was in the Marines, like direct air support. It wasn't, we worked with the, comms guys, and that's the best it was going to get, and I hate to laugh and I want to motivate you guys a little bit about that. Is like, it doesn't really, I hate to say it this way, but I need to say it this way. It doesn't really matter what you did in the Marine or the military, because I mean, you're going to work with some of the most talented people that were focused on maybe getting a computer science degree. But as you can see, Justin is here before you. So it's like, who's still going to get his degree and will still continue to work on tech. So I think just to answer the gentleman or whoever's question, it's just
Daniel.
you gotta, you just gotta do work. As one of my peers always says, it's just do work. You'll be good. I mean, no one here is like a god. They didn't come in a god or oh yeah, no, I'm reading a book right now on my desk. As soon as this call is over, I got to do some studying to make sure that we stay atop. So it's just going to be the continued work. Just think about going to the gym. Make sure you continue to lift. That's all I got.
Consistency, right? The corporate world values all the same things that the military does. Mission focus, everyone focused on moving forward in the same direction. And you guys have learned that, because you're in a very structured environment. The corporate world is less structured, and so what comes easy to you because you've experienced this very structured environment where everyone is mission focused and moving forward. When you come into the military, people are going to be astounded. Or excuse me, when you come into the corporate world, people are going to be astounded by what you're able to do. So your experience, your passion, that's really what's going to lead the way for you. Obviously, skills will matter to a certain extent, but I think the big takeaway: don't get hung up on the box that you don't check. It doesn't mean that you can't go forward and apply for something. Okay. Anyone else want to jump in before I move on to the next one? Okay. All right. From Jordan. When I look at game dev jobs, it seems like all require so much experience. If my goal was to work for Microsoft Game Studios with nothing but a degree, how would I accomplish that? Gavin, go for it.
So Microsoft, like many other careers in the gaming industry, we offer internships. So the absolute best way is to get one of those internships. If you can't get an internship, the thing that I've seen time and time and time again is use your passion, do work in your own time, make some demos. Those catch people's eye. It tells people that you're prepared to commit to your passion, and it reassures them that your learning is not just on paper, right? Because there are people who go and get a degree and for whatever reason haven't really taken on board that information. And the interview process is really trying to filter down to what do you actually know and what do you actually care about and how will you collaborate with my team. So for me, it's all about distinguishing yourself and showing people, yes, I do have passion. Yes, I can actually apply the learning that I've had. And yes, I can be a benefit to your team. And that's the way that you show people and get in for that job interview.
And I think to a certain extent, that answer from Gavin dovetails into the next question here from Joshua around what importance have you seen placed on college education versus other options like coding boot camps? And I'll take a stab at this. Is that obviously individual hiring managers may have their own preferences, but by and large, in my own experience as a hiring manager, and Gavin, feel free to jump in as well, is that I'm more concerned with what can you show me now? It's great that maybe you've got a piece of paper framed on your wall at home, but you're in my office at my whiteboard answering my question, and I'm looking to understand what is your problem solving skill? What is your thought process? Do I think I could place you into a position today and have you be effective in solving a problem that I have right now? And whether or not you've got that piece of paper framed on your wall back home really doesn't matter to me. So I don't know, Gavin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm totally on the same page. That's all the interview process is for, and we're just trying to work out how can you contribute and how can you level up the team. So yeah, the degree's a good way of demonstrating that you have spent time in learning on the subject. For me personally, I always want to see that you've done things outside of the learning, because I've seen too many times people come in and like have coasted through their degree and don't necessarily have the passion or the ability that we really want to see. So yeah, I completely concur.
Yeah, I think,
I want to add on to that real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, Angel. Yes.
Yeah, I went through, I think college, like for computer science, and then I found out, when you get out, that they're looking for people who have projects. Maybe you built yourself, maybe you built your own game, you had your own portfolio somewhere, your own GitHub that has all these projects, and they're looking for people who have hands-on experience with making games, with working with other people. And I also had to study how to interview also, which was a whole other process. I studied this book called Cracking the Coding Interview, and I would study on how to answer these software questions.
So I think if you lack experience, a degree is a great proxy for that. But the thing is that everyone watching this has experience. You've gotten that through the military, and I think you've already got a leg up through that. I don't know, Eric, Justin, either of you want to have any thoughts, want to add to this?
I think one of the things I was just thinking about is I see a question that I kind of scanned in chat about like, hey, what if my question is, how do you get an internship if you're not in school anymore? I want to relate this question to this. And in
Sure.
my current role in my team right now, there's something called like a career experience program. And so like this young gentleman is like a data science center technician, and he's able to come experience what it's like to be on our team for 3 months. And so there's just a ton of programs through Microsoft that I know of, like Leap. I think they're doing a Karen event where they're going to hire somebody, which in the next thing. So just to throw out there, there's just a ton of things. You might have to do your own research, but I want to throw them out there. Maybe these are some you can find. One was career experience, but I think that requires you to be at Microsoft. And Leap, I don't think that's the case, but there's some others. Jason, I'll let you take it.
Yeah, so I actually hired a LEAP candidate just last year. He's been awesome. So he had already completed his college degree, and the LEAP program brought him in to effectively intern with us for, I think it was 3 to 4 months, and then at the end of that intern period, we had the option to extend him the offer, and I was more than happy to, because he's been awesome, right? Because he brought with him not only his college degree, but also he had some real world practical experience. But then we got to do a 4 month extended interview with him, right? So we knew what we were getting, and he was an awesome hire, and he's still with the team now. So let's see. I'll go on to the next one, Justin, unless you wanted to comment on that. Okay, cool. So let's see. Let me just make sure I'm sorting these correctly. All right. Joshua, what important? Oh, wait a minute. Sorry. I'm sorry, Joshua. I already answered that one. The next, Byron wants to know if Microsoft or Xbox hold job fairs. I don't know. I think that's might be a little bit outside of my lane. I think maybe if we had someone from recruiting. Anyone know? If not,
I'm not aware of any.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they don't happen, but I'm
Right.
not aware of any.
Okay. So sorry, Byron. It's a little outside of our lane. I might refer you to the Microsoft Careers website to see if you can find some info there. So moving on to Brian's question. He says, I have 12 years of software testing experience in the automotive industry, and I would love to pivot into a QA role in gaming. How can someone with no background in gaming pivot into the industry?
Oh, I can take that one.
Oh,
I want to take
yeah,
that one.
yeah, Angel, yeah, go for it.
Because when I graduated college and I tried to do my side projects, I built my resume, and then I got hired at PACCAR, which is where I would test truck software, and had nothing to do with games. Nothing at all. But I worked on there and I tested the software, and I tried to make an automation framework also. And then when you put that kind of cool, like successful projects on your resume, and you could still apply to any kind of gaming QA role you might see and say, yeah, I can test software, because it's just software. Even though it's a game and there's different layers of complexity on it, it's still software.
Awesome. And I think, Justin, were you going to jump in on that one or no?
Oh, I was just going to say that application might be different, but Angel's right. It's software in the end. So,
right. And and none of us were born into this, right? We all of us came to the gaming industry with no gaming industry experience at one time or another. So there really is no sort of secret code for that. It's if you've got the skills, again, don't be hesitant to sign up, because one of the sort of the unwritten thing that's in Brian's question here is, he's got 12 years of experience. I mean, that's like senior level experience right there. But yet he's filtering a possible option because none of it is in the gaming industry. Don't self-select or filter yourself out from opportunities. You've got the experience. Go for it. What's the worst that could happen? Right? And I would also say too is that even though we're talking Xbox, if you find maybe you don't find an open role for game QA testing somewhere in Xbox Game Studios, but maybe there's one somewhere else in Microsoft. Don't be shy about applying for that either, because Microsoft runs a very rigorous interview process. But once you're hired into Microsoft, it's very easy to actually transfer around. And so it could be that maybe there's no QA test roles open in gaming right now, but there are maybe over in Azure, maybe over in Windows, maybe over in Office. Go for it. Get that role. Once you're in, 6 months from now, maybe a bunch of roles open up because we've got a new game that's coming out, or we've acquired a new studio or whatnot. Then that's your opportunity to make that transition over into gaming. I'm not sure how many folks on this panel actually started their Microsoft careers in gaming. I know I didn't. I started doing anti-spam at Hotmail. So I was at Microsoft for 3 years before I came to the gaming org. So it's definitely a viable path. And filtering out just because it's not gaming, you could be selling yourself short. Yes, Gavin.
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of broaden that question a little bit as well, because, we're talking about QA as one specific sort of specialist discipline that is there in the software industry. Gaming is very complex. A lot of games fail, a lot of games get delayed, and it's not because it's simple for them to be made. So games, if you look at almost any field out there in software engineering, there is a place in games that uses very similar technology or skills at the technical level. So, like, just as an example, okay, so maybe you have worked in website engineering. Okay, so backend services in games. Games these days always or almost always are communicating with backend services. Most are custom written or require some configuration. You've worked on simulations for the military. Well, guess what? Game simulation, there's AI, physics, animation, you name it, right? So the games is very, very broad. There is usually some way that you can map across into the gaming space and then broaden from there. I think one of the mistakes in misinterpretations of the games industry is that you go into games and you're immediately just a gameplay programmer if you're a software engineer. There are so many roles in games that it's just very, very broad. So don't make the mistake of thinking, well, I don't know how to program like real-time AI for an NPC, therefore I can't go into games. No, there are a lot of skills that are directly applicable and used every day in the games industry.
Awesome. Okay. All right, moving on to, so that was Brian Robinson's question. Moving on to Brian Galvin's question. Do you have to live in a specific area to work with Microsoft Gaming? I've got a pretty definitive answer here, but I'll open it up to anyone on the panel who wants to answer. Gavin, I think you're probably most qualified.
Yeah. I live in New Zealand. I'm visiting my team right now in Japan. I have 4 reports here in Japan. That's a big no. You don't have to live in Redmond. My team, the publishing team, is scattered across the US. We've got someone in Ireland. I believe we've got some people in Europe. Got 2 people in New Zealand, 7 people in Japan, and the game, that's just the publishing team. Right? The Games org has people all over the world. So no, in order to work in games in Microsoft, that you absolutely do not need to live in Redmond.
Right. In fact, my leap hire, who I mentioned that I hired last year, he lives in Atlanta, and his manager lives in El Paso, and I have another employee who lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. I do have a bunch of employees who do live here in the Redmond area. But yes, we're scattered all over the place. So let's see. Anthony wants to know if anyone can comment on stability and work-life balance in the games industry. Is stability based on projects and or pipeline? So anyone want to take that one?
I guess
Okay, yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
It was just a long pause. So I was just like, I don't want to take anybody's time. I think just when I hear that stability, a lot of the things that I look for in a team or something like that is leadership, my team, and then kind of technology. So when I kind of go through that in my head, my leadership team usually is going to handle a lot of stability. You know what I mean? Like, hey, if we're hitting down a certain path, they'll communicate that. But that's not every team, that's in every group. But I would recommend that for you to kind of take that metric of leadership, team, and then the technology that you're working on. If you're on some really cutting edge stuff, I don't think you have to worry so much about stability. But if there's a lot of duplication or a lot of different efforts, you need to just kind of take that situation in. And if you're in the military, you should, you have an understanding of that. You know what I mean? If your special forces or whatnot, but they're going to choose the pretty boys or whatever. So I hate to use that analogy, but I hope that makes sense. Just try to take that metric of leadership, team, and technology. Maybe some other folks have some things, but I just wanted to. Sorry, Aaron.
Well, I have a sense of where the question is coming from. Yeah, go ahead, Angel.
Oh, sorry. This a part of it was work-life balance, right?
Sure.
So that's, I think it's a good question, because when you're working on a game and you're getting close to that release date, there will be a lot of intensity around that. And there will be some expectation where you might have to work overtime, but that just, I don't think they're going to force you to do that. I think you can just communicate with your leadership.
So yes, very, very much so. And I also think it's evolved over time. So when I joined the Xbox team, it was during the development cycle for the Xbox 360. As we got closer and closer to launch and we hit crunch mode, they started bringing in lunch for everyone. And then they started bringing in lunch and dinner. And then it was lunch, dinner, breakfast, and Sunday brunch for everyone. And there were definitely a few nights where I slept in my office. But that was a long time ago. I haven't seen a crunch mode quite like that, at least not in the last 10 years, because we've learned from those experiences, and we've gotten a lot better about planning so that we don't put people through those sorts of situations. And where I was getting at with understanding where the question was coming from is I know that for a lot of independent game studios, it can be feast or famine, where you're only one game away from your studio being shut down. I think Microsoft Game Studios is a little bit different because you do have sort of the heft and weight of Microsoft behind it, so it's not quite that same dire situation. But yeah, we also our employees are salaried, and we do leave it to them to sort of sort out their own work-life balance to a certain extent as well. Basically, we entrust you to figure out what works for you, what works for your family, what works for your team. So let's see. I think we're getting a little low on time. We've probably got time for maybe one or two more questions. Here, let me just resort this to make sure I'm getting the highest voted ones. So there's a question from Danielle about programming languages. What programming languages do you need to understand to work on games? I don't know that any of us are actually specifically game developers.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm not. Well, for when you're QA, you can build some skills for automation. So just for Packard, I learned C#, and then luckily when I saw a job posting for the automation, I didn't see it was C#, but C# was a Microsoft language, so it was really awesome that I had some programming skills there. And C++ too was a really good language for different game engines. But I think you can also learn when you're on the project as well what language that they use.
And then thanks, Angel. And Gavin, you were going to chime in too?
Yeah, I've been developing like directly coding in games for my entire career. The two most common engines out there right now are Unity and Unreal. Unreal is largely C++ with some with C# for a lot of the automation layers and pipeline support. RIP Unity. Not going to comment. And Unity is C#. There are other engines out there. Most of them are either C++ or C#. A lot of teams use a bunch of Python for their automation, so that's always another good one. If depending on your previous experience with programming, I think C# is a really, really good place to start. It's simpler than C++. It doesn't have some of the pitfalls. And then moving to C++ is a lot easier because the syntax is very similar.
Yeah, Justin.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, if the question is what language to start with, if you don't have any languages under your belt, this can be a contentious question. And a lot of people will tend to get bogged down in that question and bounce between a lot of languages and tend to just kind of give up and just stop learning altogether because they get kind of frustrated. Just pick one and start learning it, get the fundamentals under your belt, and then it's much easier to transition to a new language once you have the fundamentals. And at that point, it's just learning new syntax. So just pick one, learn the fundamentals, and then switch later.
Awesome. Yeah, a very, very senior engineer on my team just literally was commenting yesterday that he felt that it's important to continue learning new languages because after you've learned 3 or 4, you start realizing that they're all the same and you're just learning a different syntax to get to the same thing. So yeah, it's more important to learn to program, to learn how to break your thoughts up. And I absolutely agree with Justin that pick one, focus on it, get the syntax down, learn how to be an engineer, a software engineer, and then you can move into other languages relatively easily.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think, so it looks like we're in the last couple of minutes here. So definitely want to thank all of our panelists for your insight and being willing to share your time with our audience here. Also want to thank the USO for putting this together. Like I said, the USO really improved the quality of life for me and my wife when I was on active duty, and so I'm really proud to be able to participate here to give back. So I think Danielle, did you want to close us out here?
Thank you, guys. I love the flood of applause. I can't agree with you guys enough. What a great conversation. I think some takeaways are imposter syndrome hits us all, guys. And I love how everyone was just so encouraging and shared a lot of similar advice. And so don't discount that hard work, determination, and that passion. So wherever you're at in your career journey, go forth and conquer. Okay, don't be shy. Take advantage of the resources and the advice. The key is to action on it. So I hope you walked away from today with a good next step. Take their advice. Connect with other people on LinkedIn, just as y'all have been doing today. We also shared their URLs in there as well. So we're in it together. We're here to support you.